Hey, what's up, world? Coach Kurt here with Girl Brian, talking here on the Fight House Talks podcast. Today we have a great guest. We have Rage NG. We're going to be talking about coaching MMA, and yeah, it's pretty straightforward, pretty simple. Come loaded with questions, and feel free to share and all that. Brian, you got anything going on that you want to drop for announcements or anything like that?
We got a lot of people lined up for November and December. I had to roll people over to December because we just couldn't fit them all in November. But you guys always remember, if you aren't watching live, because we don't expect a lot of people to watch live, because people got live stuff like that. You're always free to watch us on YouTube with all of our past episodes are on there, are loaded on there for you guys to watch and review at any time. So you can go back and go look at some episodes you might have missed. If you missed this one tonight, it'll be loaded on YouTube. So like I said, a lot of guests lined up for November, rolling up into December. We were trying to get a lot of variety of different people. So I know the people that are watching, you guys are wanting to see, not just FMA stuff like that. We're getting people from all different walks of life, martial arts, sports, combat, combatives, knife systems, just everything. Want to make the announcement too for Todd Fossey Part 2 coming up. That's going to be good, guys. Keep an eye out for that one. But yeah, that's what we got going on there. Feel free to watch us, the review and the review videos and the old videos on YouTube.
Sweet. Well, let's bring up our guest. Rage, what's going on, man?
Hey guys.
What's going on?
How's it?
I like how he's all casual and I'm wearing I'm wearing a t-shirt, We're all casual. We're all casual.
I mean, we could all strip down to the beater anyways, because
yeah. We should have did that. How's it going?
Oh, it's going great. I'm here in California, rocking my tank top.
I mean, as a Cali boy, I mean, you gotta. So
yeah, we're all from California. So like I said, I'm from Central Valley. I was born in Downey and raised up in Fresno, and then Coach Kurt's from down by Lancaster, Palmdale. Yeah. So yeah, we're all Cali boys. So for all the haters out there, California sucks. Eat it.
Well, it does.
Well, technically, I'm a transplant. I'm from New York, but I've been out here for quite a while now.
So for our guests, what is the best thing to call it? Coach Rage, Coach Raging? I mean, what do you got for him?
Coach Rage is fine. Rage. Yeah. My full name is Raging, but what's up, Royce? Yeah, just call me Rage or Coach.
Coach is good.
Yeah.
Sweet. So for our guests, would you like to explain who you are? Because we have a lot of Filipino martial arts people here, and not everybody jumps over and cross trains to mixed martial arts and combat sports. So for those who don't know you, let's tell a story about yourself, sir.
Yeah. I should be better at this part.
Take your time, no pressure.
I was one of the early adopters. I fought MMA from 1997 to 2001. Nice. And living in New York, that made me a criminal. MMA was illegal. Well, it was illegal in New York until 2016, just because of dirty politics. But it was illegal in most of the United States until 2006.
Yep.
So I don't know. I started fighting in 97. But really, I got into fighting because both my parents were ministers. So I was raised as a pacifist,
okay,
which made me a target. So I got beat up a lot as a kid. And, I was taught to turn the other cheek, and I did until, my teenage rebellion years. And then I started fighting back. And then I discovered that I had a talent, because the hardest part of fighting is getting hit. But once you're used to getting hit and once you're not afraid to get hit, damn. So I kind of became a bit of an expert in violence as a victim first.
Mm-hmm.
Then as I got older into junior high and high school, uh, got in a lot of trouble, and somebody suggested to my parents that they put me in traditional karate, and it worked. I started training martial arts, and I stopped fighting at school. Became a lot more disciplined, a lot more focused. Uh, Fast forward to my senior year of high school, and I'm skipping most of my high school classes to do smokers. I was actually in my high school. I was the most absentee senior to graduate. So yeah. But then in 1994, I saw the first UFC, and I said, I'm going to do that. And I was in New York City at the time, but then I moved to Syracuse, New York, and Kevin Seaman had a gym called East-West Martial Arts, and it was a Kali Jeet Kune Do Muay Thai academy. And even though he also was a pretty good boxer, um, and so that's where I really started training for MMA. Uh, and fortunately, because I met Kevin, he was connected to Guru Dan, Eric Paulson. So I was so lucky to have made that connection, because that started me on, yeah, Kevin Seaman is awesome. That started me on the legit path, because especially back then, there was so much nonsense and fraud, and some of the less legitimate martial arts trying to make their foothold in MMA. So it could have gone really, really bad for me. But fortunately, uh, I got in, and early adapter to Muay Thai. This is like the early 90s. And, and then when I moved back to New York, we had like a good little group. We had Koban, we had Phil Cruz, Phil Nurse. We had like a nice little Muay Thai community where we could actually get good sparring. And then the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu community in New York was pretty cool, and there was a pretty happening underground fight scene there, which is where I started my fights. I actually did all my fights. Then in 2000, so from 97 to 2001, I fought professionally, even though it was all illegal and underground. And I was training for my biggest fight, my first, like, I had one fight that was semi-sanctioned. It was like through Naga, but it wasn't Naga yet. I forget what it was called, but Naga became Naga after 2001 or something. So anyway, it was supposed to be an event called Mass Destruction. And it was supposed
titles.
Yeah, it was supposed to be in Massachusetts. And 2 hours before showtime, their athletic commission says, no, can't do it. They were waiting as long as possible to try and shut down the event. But the guys had a contingency plan, and they drove like an hour north to Rhode Island. And instead, we did Rhode Island Valley Tudo. But
nice.
The rules were changed, so it was more like a pancration style. It was, it wasn't exactly sanctioned. It wasn't illegal. It was like this gray area. But like back in those days, nothing was standardized. So it was a 1 round fight that was 7 minutes long, and they took away my primary weapons. So I literally get mount on the guy, and I'm like, what do I? And I kind of played bongos on his face, but that was my only fight where I didn't get a finish, and it was because I couldn't, But all my fights were bare knuckle, no, mouthpiece and cup, and that's all we did back then. And honestly, like I said, nothing was standardized. So some of them had rounds, and some of them were just no time limit, and some, But the best rule set I personally ever fought under was, if you don't win, you both lose.
That's cool. I like that one.
Yeah. And that affected me as a fighter and really stayed with me as a coach, because in the combat sports, it's so easy to show up and do just enough, just to squeak by, or have a strategy of winning the rounds. And I don't think that's me personally. I don't think that way. I don't fight that way. I don't let my fighters fight that way. Like, go out there and finish your fights.
Never leave it to the judges.
That's right. Well, and now, as we see with the judges, right, and the UFC, and all judges,
yep,
boxing, kickboxing, which I'll mention this now. I'm a California State Athletic Commission licensed professional trainer, licensed in boxing, kickboxing, and MMA.
Nice.
Yeah. So I can speak to the incompetence of judges in all three sports. Judging is hard to do. And many of the judges are not qualified to do it. But if you're showing up for the fight, fucking finish your fight, especially in MMA, because there's so many ways. There's so many techniques. There's so many ways. You can punch, you can kick, you can knee, you can elbow. You've got submissions, you got chokes and arm locks and leg locks. There are so many ways to finish a fight that if you're not finishing a fight, it's a mental problem. It's a belief problem. So many guys go out there and I'll tell them, I have this philosophy that I call the one bell mindset, the one bell mentality. Bell rings, you win your fight before the second bell rings. That's your intention. And you go out there with that ferocity. Now, it doesn't mean that every time you get the knockout in the first round, but it does mean that every round your victim is fighting for their fucking life. That's what that means. I hope it's okay if I curse.
You don't fucking care.
Okay.
I'm fucking wrong.
Wait a second.
You can say anything you want on here.
Did I just get you guys demonetized?
No, we're not making anything off this. No, we're not making nothing off this. So. I don't care what anybody says on there.
So, and so that's the one bell mentality. That's something that in my system is called EYR, EYR, engage your rage. And it's a little bit different than what you usually hear with the martial arts, the Zen and the peace and, hey, cool. But to me, that's like a completely different, that's spiritualism, that's religion. And I'm down with all that stuff. But martial, the root is Mars, the god of war, warlike arts, so if we, believe the Bodhidharma story and the myth, martial arts were actually like that moniker. Oh, cool. if we go with Bodhidharma, saying that martial arts were designed to teach enlightenment, cool. But most martial arts were designed to kill people, right?
Yeah.
And okay, we're not killing each other, or at least in what I do, right? I'm combat sport only. I don't really train or teach any weapons-based content. I, look to you guys for that. So we're not fighting to the death, but the intention is the same, right? So yeah. Anyway, 2001, I was training for the biggest fight of my career, and had a training accident, which was my training partner's perfect right uppercut into my left eyeball. Eyeball expanded, shattered all the bones in my left orbital, and found out that I had an eyesight addiction. And was told by the doctor, if you want to see again, don't ever get hit there again. So yeah, I was left with ridiculous medical bills, and had to walk away from the sport because it wasn't even legal at that point, right? And after I shattered my eye socket, and when I shattered my eye socket, it's just a hiatus. I'm not retired. I'm coming back, right?
Yeah.
Denial is how we deal with trauma. So
Yeah, it is. Right.
So I became corporate director for corporate director of personal training for a chain of 7 gyms.
Sweet.
And
Damn.
when I had that job, it was a very demanding job, and I was working all the time, but it gave me stability to further my education. And then I was able to really get into biomechanics. And I came across something called RTS, which is Resistance Training Specialist. Incredibly sophisticated exercise mechanics. And at the master level, we did like cadaver anatomy. It was very high level certification. And so I was getting the master level certification in RTS, and then I stumbled through them. I met neuromuscular therapists, muscle activation techniques. So then it was like, oh, even more stuff to learn. And so I thought I was just going to be like, running gyms and personal training and, like physical therapy and that kind of stuff. I never thought I'd get back into the fight game. But in about 2000, I think it was like 2010, maybe 2000. No, it was 2010. They were making a movie called Warrior with Tom Hardy, and and the sound engineer of the film, O'Connor was the director. I think Brian O'Connor was the director, and he didn't like any of the noise, any of the foley that they had on in the library. And they said, no, we need to get someone to punch stuff and kick and get the real sounds. And so the sound engineer of the film, his wife had a dance company where my wife was connected, and then and so awesome. I did all the impact, all the noise, all the impact, all the fight noises, all that, as me and my friend Mika beating the shit out of each other for 2 days straight. And when we were using mat space at different jiu-jitsu schools, and I started meeting people and getting and then there was at one of the gyms here called The Rock, they had something called the All-American Heavyweight Program, which Michael King, who was one of Oprah Winfrey's producers, was trying to do a reality television show about heavyweight boxers and trying to get the heavyweight boxers into the Olympics. And there was like thousands of hours of footage. so I was through different connections and, through the people that I met on set at Warrior, he found me. I was part of the strength and conditioning crew there. And then from there, I joined Team Hanks, Joe Hanks' team, and I was his S&C coach and his second corner. So I went from from fighting to not fighting to on a top-ranked heavyweight professional boxer contender, really. And it was just kind of, okay, here I am, and here's all this knowledge that I have, and I knew a lot about boxing, but working with that level of professional and being under Jamal Abdullah, now I really know a lot about boxing.
Yep.
And then because I was training with Joe and people who knew people, there was a gym here called Black House MMA.
Yeah.
And it's where Lyoto Machida and Anderson Silva, Glover Teixeira, I mean, just on and on, like, okay. And back then it was like, it was this weird little secret. It wasn't, today it's more of a commercial gym, but back then it was like, all right, we got this warehouse and we need a place for our Brazilians to train. And it was literally, there was a t-shirt company, Sinister. And so this half the warehouse was Sinister clothing. And then this half the warehouse was jiu-jitsu mats and maybe like one or two heavy bags, and they had an octagon, a small little octagon. But because I had a bunch of heavyweight boxers and they invited me in, and I brought in my boxers and brought them in for sparring. And then I stayed there for 10 years. I just kept coming back. And it's not like I just didn't leave, but because I had the boxers, then it's like, okay. And then after a few years, I started coaching MMA fighters. Had a couple pros that were at Black House, and really, then I had this idea, and I found out the hard way that I was wrong. But here was my concept: take a group of amateurs, give them everything that they need to succeed, give them the best training partners, give them world-class coaches, strength and conditioning, give them an S&C coach, give them a nutritionist, give them everything to succeed, start them out when they're young, build them up, and then you'll have a team of professionals.
Yep.
Sounds like a formula for success, but it wasn't.
I tried doing that with my teens, and I didn't get them young enough. I didn't get them long enough. And we didn't have upward mobility because Alaska doesn't have a fight commission, and Alaska is really small in population and really far away from a whole bunch of other stuff.
And you're dealing with people.
Yep.
And just because you give people everything that they need to succeed doesn't mean that they actually believe that they deserve to succeed and that they're not going to find a way to self-sabotage.
Fighters are finicky. Fighters are hard. Yeah.
Fighters are fighters for a reason.
Yep. We're coming from trauma.
Like exactly, right? Normally well-adjusted, well, if there is such a thing as well-adjusted, normal, and happy, we don't fucking see them, right? I mean, I don't know if there is such a thing. Like, if there is such a thing as well-adjusted, happy, and normal, but they're not fucking punching each other in the face. That's for sure. So, fighters are fucked up in the first place to become fighters.
Yep.
But having what it takes to be a fighter, having what it takes to be an athlete, and having what it takes to be a champion, they don't automatically go together. You've got to, and you can't do it for someone else, right?
Yeah.
And having everything you need to succeed sometimes actually makes it harder to succeed.
Yeah,
right.
It does. Because if you give them something, they're going to take it for granted.
Right. And I was like, oh no. I'm sorry. My wives, I have 2 wives. We can get into that, but
okay.
Sarah and Taryn were both saying you got to charge these kids more. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, I basically let them train for free.
Yep.
Because I know how difficult it is. First of all, we're in Los Angeles, right? So just paying rent and surviving, it's like, okay.
That's a fucking struggle.
Yeah. And what they could afford to pay, like I feel okay training you for free, understanding that in a few years you're going to be professional, and then you're going to remember coach and get me back, and we're going to have. I'm okay with that, but I'm not okay asking for a nickel and a dime. Like what they could afford to pay me makes me feel like shit getting paid that. Because then I'm like, fuck, I'm putting in 4 hours a day. I'm driving 3 hours each day. So that's a full 8-hour day. That's 40 hours a week, $100 a month. Okay.
Plus the tax man and the landlord doesn't care if you get paid or not.
Yeah. So I separated. It's like the coaching, right? I'm not looking right now. I'm not expecting an ROI there. Mm-hmm. I have other business stuff that I do that covers my expenses. I I work as an expert witness quite a bit. And again, like all these is like, how'd that happen? I don't know, but thank God.
Damn, you got some crazy ass luck. Like shit's taking you everywhere.
and it's good work if you can get it.
Yeah.
But because of my background and expertise in my resume, I actually make a really good expert witness. So yeah, and back when I was working in boxing, I used to say that boxing paid for my MMA. Mm-hmm. my boxing work covered my MMA habit, because it's hard to make money in boxing, even harder to make money in MMA.
Yeah.
And so at this point, I'm just like, you know what? Fuck it. I'm not going to make the money. I'm just going to make a bunch of fucking killers, and then we're going to see what happens. And
roll the dice.
Yeah. And that's what I'm doing right now, actually. Is it cool that I just keep talking, or?
Dude, no. We don't want to interrupt you because we're like. So I do have a question though.
Yeah.
When you're talking about bringing people in, like you said, you had your business plan or your plan of bringing them in young.
Yeah.
What's the recommended age to bring them in, and then like what's the like teens or below that, or?
No, honestly, like I don't know what the perfect age is, right? But to train with me as an amateur, you need to have a way to cover your rent, and so for example, the Butcher, one of my fighters, Dylan the Butcher Ludwig, he works graveyard. Mm-hmm. So he works 40 hours a week, probably actually this week I know he's working like 60 hours a week. Thanksgiving's coming up, and he actually had to work extra shifts because he has to get time off to fight. on the 18th. Anyway, my point is they're busting their ass working full time, paying rent, trying to survive. And every Monday through Friday from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m., you're mine.
Mm-hmm.
So we train, and you block it off, and we train like professionals. And if they're willing to make that commitment, and if they're able to make that commitment, but like right now, we're working with a kid who's 18 or 19. But they need to be at least old enough that they can make these life decisions, right? Now, it'd be ideal if they had experience coming in. However, half the time, if they do have experience, then you're trying to change or break bad habits,
Yep.
right? So I don't know how to answer that question, right? And we don't really have we don't have a funnel system. We don't have a so it's
So it's basically, if you're mature enough, like if some kid, 18-year-old, 19-year-old comes to you, you see he's mature enough to handle working, paying his bills, plus the passion to fight and the willingness to do the training, then you're kind of just pretty much like, you'll take him in. Good attitude. Those kind of like honestly, the criteria kind of.
A lot of people don't make it.
No.
Like, no.
It's just like fucking actors, right? Everybody goes to Hollywood. Oh, my cousin does.
I mean, training with us. So right now I'm at a gym called Pugilist, and my friend Thor, VJ. So the coaches of the fight team are Thor and Rage, and Thor had his time as an MMA fighter, and he and I, match made in Valhalla. I can't tell you how many guys are like, oh yeah, and they come and they do one session, 4-hour session with us, and we never see them again.
Yep.
Why is that though?
Because it's hard, and it's they think, oh, I've trained this martial art, I've trained that martial art, I was on this fight team, I was on that fight team, and they think it's something that it isn't. Where we have a professional training schedule. Most of the guys are amateurs, but they're amateurs with the intention of turning pro. And many of them are right on the cusp, like Cameron Fardad, he's our jiu-jitsu coach, and he's killing it right now. He's a jiu-jitsu black belt, and he's going to have his first kickboxing fight in like next week, like on the 18th, November 18th. He's going to be going pro very soon, right? The point that I'm making is we train like professionals, and professional training is a lot harder than what people think. And even other even other gyms don't really understand what it is to train professional fighters and professional athletes. A lot of gyms are set up as schools, and people take a lot of classes, and they think, well, if I'm going to be competing, I need to take more classes. And so they take a lot of classes every week, and they think that they're ready to fight. And in the entry level of amateurs, that's fine.
Yep.
But to turn pro, that's not how it's going to work. And I'm pretty shocked. Here in Southern California, we have an amazing regional scene: boxing, kickboxing, and MMA. The best American kickboxing promotion is called Fighters Rep, and it's here in Southern California, and it's pro-am. And there's tremendous value in having pro-am shows where part of the card is professional, part of the card is amateur. The audience is watching. They can't tell the fucking difference, right? Other than the amateurs are shorter time and fewer rounds. But
amateurs are hungry. They're
we're
fun to
fucking
watch.
knocking people out in
Yeah.
the amateurs and the pros, and that's all that's what the audience cares about. But what it does is it gives our fighters gives the amateurs the practice of being professional and showing up the day before, handling all the media, handling all the ticket sales, handling all the bullshit that you have to do because we live in a capitalist society, and you don't just get to show up and fucking fight. You got to handle business first, and then you can fight. And
Dude,
being
the fight
part
life
of
is hard.
yeah.
I mean, for an athlete,
And now there's a promotion here in Southern California called Up Next Fighting, Up Next MMA. And they are not fucking around. Their media is phenomenal. Most of their shows are pro-am. Some are just professional, and they do have some that they call it Team UNF, or I'm not sure exactly, but it's amateurs only. But many of their cards are also pro-am. And they're amazing. You guys know the Schmo?
Yeah.
The Schmo, right? He's one of their commentators.
Okay.
Right? Yeah.
Nice.
So, he's and Ashley Evans Smith, and their media is phenomenal. And it's CSAC regulated, California State Athletic Commission. The point that I'm making is that we are fortunate here in SoCal. There's so many schools, there's so many teams. Sorry.
Did we lose you?
I don't know what happened to my screen here. Yeah, I don't know.
We can still see you.
Cool. Yeah. All right. my screen cut away. Somebody's trying to call me.
Oh.
Jesus.
Well, no worries.
So we have one of the best combat sports scenes in the world.
Yep.
But a lot of the schools here they haven't figured out the difference between training fighters and training students. And I mean, that just makes it a little more fun for my guys. But yeah, it's one of the things that happens a lot is they think that there's a certain way to train civilians, right? And it becomes like just this kind of long, drawn out circuit where you're doing like a lot of pad work, and then you run in between so you keep the heart rate up, and then you're doing calisthenics, and then you do this, and then you do that, and that's great for civilians who don't get any other exercise, and it's just kind of this. They're going to get fit, they're going to learn some martial arts, they're going to stay, they're going to keep paying their monthly dues. Awesome. And they're probably not going to get injured. But when you start training professional athletes and amateur athletes, well, now you're talking about program design and having a schedule and having segments of that schedule that need special focus. I make all my fighters get notebooks, and I like to color code them. I don't know if that's necessary, but it's how my little brain works. So I make them get a red folder for striking and a black folder for grappling and a blue folder, or notebook, not folder, but yeah, you're writing down for strength and conditioning. And then a green folder for nutrition and a white folder for mental conditioning and a gold folder for business. Because each one of those sections each one of those is a rabbit hole and a lifetime of study. And if you're not organized, then how do you track your progress?
Mm-hmm.
Right? And the business and the nutrition are always hideous. Business is non-existent. These kids are coming, they don't even realize, like, that they think all they got to do is fight. It's like,
Learn how to manage your money. I mean, just average people don't know how to manage their money,
no,
let alone fighters who come from like an at-risk youth background.
that's right. That's right. But then how are you going to get the fight?
Yep.
And why is anyone going to give you a chance? How many tickets can you sell? How are
Gotta
you
be
going to sell
marketable.
tickets? That's right. That's right. And how's your social media, by the way?
Yep.
Who the fuck are you and why does anybody care? Because I
I
got
have
a
a
whole
story.
bunch of people that want to fight, but I don't have a whole bunch of people that can sell out the house.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And so and listen, there's not one formula that works for everybody. But this is what I will guarantee. You fucking pay attention there. You put your intention to improve, and you actually get a freaking notebook and start doing work and start doing your research and start going on YouTube and watching tutorials and but. What apps are you on? How do you, each one has a different formula, right?
Mhm.
But it's the fighter's job, like you guys said, to be interesting, to be marketable, right? Conor McGregor is not really a very good fighter.
Oh, he's an awesome businessman. That dude can sell the game. That's
Yeah.
why I like Jake Paul. I absolutely dislike him as a human being, but as for selling the game, the dude is saving boxing. I hate to say it, but he is saving boxing because he's an entertainer. That's really what
I
people are there
am
for.
not mad at Jake Paul at all.
Yeah.
It's good bullshit.
I've got friends who made more money as a sparring partner
Yep.
in his camp
Yep.
than they made in their entire fight career.
And this
So
is like the fight game. What people don't understand, the fight game is way more than just showing up and getting hit. Because talk about like the feeder aspect, starting with young kids, because without like Golden Gloves, because Golden Gloves really isn't a thing so much nationally, it's in small pockets. Any like the USA Boxing or USA Taekwondo, any of those like nationally rated programs are still very small because it's been pulled out of the school systems for one, and so it's not like the youth feeder crew coming into the young adults. Plus, I mean, being a fighter, having been one, having you been one, I mean, the fight game is really, really hard because the barrier of entry, for one, just like doing the work, is really hard. Because, I mean, again, fighting, it feels simple, or better yet, it feels easy. Everybody would do it. Because, I mean, fighting is simple, but it's not easy. Uh, so, yeah, being a fighter, putting in that work, putting in that time, and especially if you're coming from a lower economic background, social economic situation, at risk youth, I mean, they're not taught to be functional human beings, and then going to a field where their valuation is their combative capability, and they don't have the emotional balance or training to like carry that through, plus the work. I mean, that game is so much more than getting hit because the business side of boxing is really hard. I mean, I keep saying this. It's hard because it is.
yeah, I drive a lot.
Mhm.
Yeah, the gym that I work at right now, one of my fighters lives out there, and my friend Thor owns it. And originally we started out like me bringing my guys in to spar with his guys, and then it was just like this fit is too good, and Thor and I get along too well, and we all have a common vision. Okay, I guess I'm driving. Fine. But
Mhm.
I drive a lot, so I listen to a lot of audiobooks.
Mhm.
And I listened to Mike Tyson's The Undisputed Truth.
Yeah.
And he talked about his first contract.
Mhm.
He was getting
Reamed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
And it was just like, holy shit. And then he was never very good, but it's just like what I take for granted, what we take for granted as like common knowledge, right? Like managers get no more than 20%, right? So somewhere between 10 and 20. So 15, 20% is standard, right? Managers do not make more than 20%. We know this. We have the internet. We have, right?
Yeah.
We can talk to each other. He was a fucking, he was a 16-year-old kid coming out of juvie, right? His coach said, here are your managers, sign these papers, and that's boxing for you though. But
Don King.
bro, and then like Don King was the next. So
Bob Aaron.
anyway, right. Oh God. Yeah. So the business part of it, but see, before you even now, today, MMA fighters, or we'll just stick to MMA, right? Because boxing's its own fucking mess.
Yep.
And kickboxing isn't really a professional sport yet. I'm sorry. I love kickboxing. Man, my fucking guys dominate in kickboxing, but it's not a real professional sport yet. It's not
I wish K1 took off. I missed that.
Or
K1, damn, that shit was old.
Right?
You're gonna watch that shit when I was overseas.
But it's just, you can't do it professionally and only train. And it's even the professionals that are doing well, even the glory pros, aren't doing well in terms of professional athletics. It's unfortunate. And anyway, so we're just talking about MMA. The way it works, if you're lucky. So I will only talk about my experience. We have the Southern California regional scene. We have the best. Camo, hands down, is the best amateur mixed martial arts in the country. Sorry, Primo, I know you got it up there in the Northeast, but Camo's the best. Sorry. So we have sanctioning bodies. We have different promotions. It's super easy. You sign up on their website, and then all of a sudden promoters start calling you. And you say, talk to my coach. They talk to your coach, and then you have a fight lined up. And you sell tickets, and you get a percentage of the ticket sales. So this is, blowing my mind because of my experience, when it's like I couldn't even have my wife come to my fights because it was too dangerous and it was all illegal. Or this is like, wait, you guys get to sell tickets, have your friends and family come, and everyone's happy. Damn. And you fucking get paid as an amateur. If you
Who's the guarantee you're going to get paid? I mean, with some of these promotions,
right? So the more tickets you sell, the more money you make. Right. And it's not a big amount of money as an amateur. You get a percentage of ticket sales, but the more you sell, the more you make. But then as you progress, and then you start going into the regional scene. Now, the regional scene is where ticket sales really matter, because now you've got promotions and promoters that, are they going to sign you to a multiple fight deal? Are they going to, are they going to take care of you, or are they going to use you? And that's pretty much, like, let's be honest, those are the only two positions that you can be in. You're either the A side or you're the B side. And it's not as bad as boxing.
Journeyman boxer.
Yeah. But
done that.
If you're putting the asses in the seat, if you are selling the tickets, then the promoters like you, and they are going to go out of their way to accommodate you and give you a fair matchup or a favorable matchup, right? And if we look at the progression, you need to spend 2 or 3 years as an amateur, get at least 10 or 15 amateur fights in MMA, transition to a professional, then you're going to spend at least 2 years on the regional scene.
Mhm.
Now, if you're just murking everybody and you're undefeated and you rack it up and you're 6-0, 7-0, well, then there's the contender series,
Mhm.
right? So you got the regional scene, and then see here in Southern California, we've got Up Next, which is a tremendous, but we also have LFA. And LFA, their job is to feed. They are the feeder promotion for the UFC. And if you look at LFA, you look at their logo, their font for LFA is the exact same font as
Mhm.
UFC. They get to use an octagon with 8 sides, the same exact fucking octagon as the Apex Center.
Mhm.
That's not a coincidence. Sean Shelby is one of the executives for LFA.
Mhm.
So that's the purpose, and so you do well in the amateurs, you do well in the regionals, then you have LFA contenders. Now, that's the easy way into the big show. The hard way is that you do another couple years on the regional scene and really start building up a record. And then 13 wins, very few losses, then maybe you can actually get the call to go into the UFC. Things are changing.
Mhm.
Things are changing. Uh, we're in. We are beginning the journeyman era of the UFC. So, do you guys watch Dana White's Contender Series at all?
Yeah.
Yeah, I've watched a couple
Right?
couple episodes. Yeah,
Have you seen this season compared to previous seasons, and how much
not this
older?
current season. Yeah.
So this season, there's a lot of 30-plus-year-old fighters
Yeah.
getting into the UFC, where 2 years ago
It's
Dana
all 18. Yep.
specifically said, "You're too old. I am not giving anyone
Yeah.
30." Right? But because the way the business structure has changed, because the UFC was sold to Endeavor, they are now a content provider for ESPN,
Mhm.
and they have a quota to make to fill the fight cards and only a few pay-per-views. But the UFC gets paid regardless of how the pay-per-views do, how the fight cards do. They just need to provide content and they get
Mhm.
paid. And the better the pay-per-views do, well, that's on Endeavor's bottom line, not the UFC's bottom line, right? So that's an ESPN. So that has changed the business model of the UFC, where it used to be they were a fight promotion, put together the best fights that you possibly can, and sell them, and pay-per-view was their primary source of income. Now they're just a content provider. So now they have to fill all these fights. So now there's a place for journeymen.
Yep.
Used to be if you lost 2 fights in a row, the UFC cut you. They kicked you out. Now, man, Sam Alvey, like they kept him around. Sam, I consider Sam a friend, but he would be the first one to say, "I don't know, I'm still getting paid."
Well, it's interesting because like you have these other feeder sub promotions. So like up here in Alaska, we have the AFC, which is the Alaska Fighting Championship, and we
Okay.
got a lot of fighters that feed. I mean, they come up here, get the rankings, and feed and backfill their card and head back down there because like Lauren Murphy, uh, Jared Cannonier's up here. I mean, Demetrius Johnson fought up here a couple times. I mean, there's several UFC ranked fighters that a couple of them started here and went down, or they came up here intermittently. And one of the things that I remember with the AFC before I got out of the fight game here in Alaska is they were a feeder content creation because they're on the Fight Pass. So all of their fights were streamed through there, and I mean, and they have a national bit of backfill and content they can draw from. So I mean, just the interconnectivity now,
Yeah.
and you could just sit there all day and watch fights. And
Oh yeah.
and I've done that. So
I'm so I remember when there was like 2 UFCs a year, and you didn't get to see them because it was banned from cable, so you had to wait for it to come out on VHS.
Yep, VHS and DVD. Yep.
And now it's like, oh, there's another UFC on like every fucking weekend. Yeah.
Yeah, I noticed that they got fights every week now on ESPN now.
Yeah, every week.
So do you think we're in this phase where there's an oversaturation of the market? I mean, it's great for the fighters, great for the community, but for the viewership, do you feel like there's an oversaturation? It's like boxing went through that phase in the mid 2000s. Part of it also because the UFC was starting to hit hard. But do you feel like MMA itself is actually in that oversaturation of the market phase?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. Right. I see it both ways. Like, to me, opportunity is opportunity. And because there's more spots to fill, there's more opportunity. Unfortunately, there's opportunity for guys that don't deserve the opportunity. But for guys that do deserve the opportunity, it's just the path is exactly the same as it was before. Be good, win, rise. Now, fighting is pretty. It's pretty. It's pretty straightforward. It's pretty meritocratic as far as like winning kind of solves everything.
Yep.
Now, as we talked about before, the judges and the promoters, it's not as simple as just, be good, train. But, that's a huge part of it.
Yeah, KO is still a KO.
Exactly.
You can't dispute it. Make him tap is still a tap. So
yeah.
I think when you're talking about oversaturation of the market, the demand is there because so many people. The market for sports, like you said, now it's football season. You have basketball, so you have an audience where they feel that hey, this sport, other sports are on, and the demand is there. People want to see fights every week. I mean, you go to any local bar, any fucking Buffalo Wild Wings or fucking Fly by Night bar. What's everybody always say? I'm gonna go watch a fight. I'm gonna have a couple beers and watch a fight, or I'll watch a football game.
And
so
honestly,
you have that competitiveness.
I don't really understand. I don't understand fan base. Like the majority of people that watch fighting don't train, don't know anything about fighting, don't know, like 85% of the viewership is what we would call casuals, right? Who are, watching it as background noise at the party or, the Buffalo Wild Wings or whatever.
Yeah.
And I honestly don't understand that demographic. Like, I don't understand how you guys live. I don't get it. I don't know what they're thinking, but I don't think I need to. Right? It's like,
I
mean, that's the difference between entertainment and expertise. You're coming from an expert standpoint where this is your life. This is how you make your money. This is like the core of what you do.
Exactly.
Everybody else,
the understanding that they're our bread and butter, and that we have to be entertaining, and that we are accountable to them. And I know how to be entertaining, and I know how to win fights. But as far as like getting into their heads and why, Skittles O'Malley, Sugar Shane O'Malley is a star, I don't know. Like, I don't get it. Like, wow. Okay. And, the organization, the company does manufacture stars, and they know what they're doing, and they understand why Skittles is a star, but I don't.
They create characters just like movies. I mean, you create a
Just
character,
like
and you have to build on that character to draw people in.
Yeah. So
it's
they have their process.
It's interesting because like the dynamic of the casuals are that 80%, 20%. So like from the fight game itself, in the gym. You got like the 80% that are the ones doing the classes, being students, kind of being athletes, but you got like that 20% that could be that 10 and that 1 that are actually going to be like the journeyman, the soldiers, and those who are actually going to do the thing that can become a champion. But just like the audience, you got the 80% of people who are just watching, then you got that 20 to 10 to 1 that's actually doing stuff with it.
Yeah. And see, so that 80-20 split that you just pointed out, right? So the gym that I'm at now, Pugilists, right?
Mhm.
They are a civilian gym,
Mhm.
and they have classes, and they have cardio kickboxing, cardio boxing, and Muay Thai and jiu-jitsu, and like classes for like civilians and normal people. And I'm not there during that time, and I've got nothing to do with that because that's not what I do. Right now, I'm sure I could, but
It's a different mindset.
I focus on, really, and it's, we say the 20%. Really, I'm trying to find the 1%.
Well, your
Right.
time is valuable. I mean, talk about like fighters itself. Now, if you're a one-man show and you're making do with what you got, that's admirable. It's honorable because I've been there, done that life, and that was really fucking hard. But you as a specialist coach that's trying to go for the 1%,
Yeah.
your time, your intellectual and personal resources are very valuable. And for a fighter that find that perfect matchup for all that investments, I mean, just the gratitude part alone is very impactful because the fact is that's a lot of sacrifice on yours between time. I mean, just the time alone, time away from family, time from things you want to do. So find a fighter that's respectful to that, willing to do the work and get into the game and get in the fight, and matching that up to you. I mean, that is a very specialized bracket. And to be fair, because your quality at that level, you don't need to backfill with the 80% because that's not. I hate to say it's a waste of resources because you got phenomenal.
It's a misappropriation.
Misappropriation.
I wouldn't say, I wouldn't say it's a waste, but yeah.
But yeah, for like those who are actually going to do the thing, there are, just like journeyman fighters. There's journeyman coaches that are great for leading the classes, getting people in shape, doing those, putting in the grind. But those who are like the truly specialized coaches, and your senior coaches, they're not the ones leading classes. They're the ones one-on-one. And there's a big, and I think the audience knows that there's a difference, but for those out there, there is a difference.
Yeah. My my friend and partner Thor, I don't fucking know when he sleeps, honestly, because he's at the gym all the time when I'm at the gym, and then he's still at the gym like right now, he's still at the fucking gym, and he's gonna be at the gym until 10 p.m. Like, honestly, like, how many 14-hour days is he putting in time and time and time? And fuck, bro. But he's doing what has to be done
to pay those bills.
To pay the bills. But it's more than that. Like, I don't want to give the impression that I don't appreciate the civilians, because he's building a community. And they've got, it's really, he does all kinds of like different charity, and it's a pretty amazing group. And one thing that's new for me is this group fucking shows up and watches the fights and supports the team, and it's just like, wow. Like, I came from a gym that was a professional fight gym with really extremely high level fighters, and they didn't have the support that my amateurs have because of the community that Thor has built. So it's, I'm a little bit in awe of it, because I'm a fucking asshole. So like, how do you build a community? I don't know. I know how to break shit, but
I just punch you in the face.
Punch him in the fucking face.
That's right. That doesn't work, huh?
Yeah. No, that's I think like you said, it's your time's valuable, and if you have a guy that's 20-something years old that just wants to get in shape or good, you can obviously leave that to somebody else, and the guy who wants to become the diamond in the rough wants to become the actual fighter, put your time there. You know,
But there's also the guys that know that they're not going to be fighters, but want to train with the fighters.
Yep.
And they're incredibly important too.
Yep.
Like they're it's like they show up, they put in the work, and they're great training partners, which are
everybody has a purpose.
Bro.
Yeah.
But there's no illusions that they're gonna switch careers and give up their salary and risk it all on getting punched in the face, So, we have some guys on the team that they're not going to be professional fighters, but they're going to help create professional fighters, and but yeah, it comes back to having a community, which is, again, like I said, it's a new experience for me, and it's pretty cool.
Especially with your history, because going back to the days where MMA was illegal, and now that it is in the popular understanding of like the community in general, like globally, and it's, I mean, that's a 20-year, 30 years, but realistically, it's these last 20 years that have really catapulted MMA and combat sports. I mean, part of that's because of the internet, but and social media.
Like when I was, back in the 90s, and I was training boxing at a boxing gym with the boxers and the boxing coach, I wouldn't tell them about my fights
because you weren't allowed to back then.
Yeah, and it's New York City, and the people putting those fights on, you don't talk about those people, and you don't talk about those, and so I couldn't even tell my fucking coach that I was fighting. I couldn't tell my boxing coach and my boxing coach didn't really know what MMA. Nobody knew what MMA was back then.
Yeah.
Right? Fucking
no holds bar.
Right? Did you back then? Did you ever imagine it would be like it is right now? Did you even think about like, man, a couple of years from now it's going to be? What'd you think?
I thought, honestly, I thought the world was going to be a lot more hardcore than it is now. Like the 90s. Like the 1990s, like when they were fucking hardcore, bro. Like, and then all of a sudden we fucking took a fucking hard left turn to Pussyville. And and I was invited to a Metallica concert, and right around 2000. And it was in a big ass fucking stadium or arena, and they wouldn't let you stand up. They wouldn't let you leave your fucking seat. No, you can't fucking stand up because we don't want anyone getting sued or anyone getting hurt.
Yeah. Was that the Black Album tour?
I don't fucking know. I don't really. I was just like, where the fuck am I? I'm a fucking hardcore guy. Like literally, like American hardcore, fucking, Black Flag and fucking slam dance. That was my youth, right? So I'm like, a good night is a bloody night. And no, stay seated. What? How did this happen? How did it become pop? How did fucking Metallica become pop? And how did fucking hardcore music become old white guy music? Where the fuck did that God, like Bad Brains is old white guy? Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Fishbone, Fishbone.
Oh man.
Well, fuck Metallica. I hate Metallica. But anyway, that's
there's a YouTube.
I never got into them too much. Like it's like
I never.
One album was like.
You were asking if I thought it would be like this, and answer is absolutely not. Like I had a fantasy that MMA was going to fix boxing, like while we were doing it. I was like, okay, we're going to show what real fighting is about, and more, and it's going to. And it's like, oh no, boxing actually, the same influences that fucked up boxing also fucked up MMA. But I also, I didn't think I would be alive. I didn't think I thought my expiration date was like 37 or some shit. I didn't expect to be here doing this and, actually being a productive part of society and shaping young lives and all that shit. Like, that's me. Yeah, okay, that's me.
It's like an Army commercial now.
Well, man, that's the interesting progression of, I mean, it's old tribal learning. Is you got the veterans training with the children leading up, getting ready to go to war, and
Yeah.
they're training in the yard. The fact is, with combat sports, you get to see a little bit of that old world tradition where you get the veteran fighters working with the amateurs and the kids and bringing back that tribal knowledge from combat sports in the cage
Yes.
or the ring and bringing it back. And you get to
Yes.
see that. And it's a beautiful cycle.
And because of there's a certain amount of respect coming from having done it
Hmm.
that carries over, not just in fighting,
Hmm.
right? So uh psychology or life advice, or having a conversation with me has a different perspective and a different weight to it. And a lot of the young guys in the world today don't have that kind of male figure in their life that they can have a meaningful conversation about, hey, I don't know how the fuck I'm supposed to be a man here.
Hmm.
It's like,
Yeah.
well, here's my 2 cents. Um, yeah, and that is pretty unique to combat sports and the physical culture, right?
Hmm.
Because you'll get some of that in powerlifting and some of the strength
Where there's
sports.
mentoring, where there's
Yeah,
mentoring.
yeah, yeah. So that's cool.
Yeah, it's that shared experience or there's shared bit of suffering and that you've been there, done that, and it can pass along that experience to the next generation. And
Yeah,
hopefully with each they get better. Because
yeah,
like for the case of as a fight coach, one thing I've constantly reminded or I end a lot of my videos with at this point is you're more than a professional punching bag. Even though it
ah,
feels like often you are a professional punching bag because all that mentorship and all the time spent with a person.
yeah, yeah. Um, Something you said sparked something in my head today, and I'm just going to run with this tangent and uh, hope
Go for it.
hope you don't need the segue. Um, I think I have a responsibility to progress MMA.
Hmm.
If I'm teaching what was taught to me, I'm 25 years behind,
Hmm.
right? If I'm teaching what was taught to Anderson Silva,
Hmm.
I'm a decade and a half behind, right? So I need to be teaching what Anderson Silva is teaching Khalil and his other son, Gabe, right? We need to be right on the cutting edge. And I'm not teaching because I'm not Anderson Silva. He's teaching what he's teaching. But what I'm teaching is actually a more streamlined and simplified version of what was taught to me. It's a little bit like what I teach is a lot more sophisticated than how I fought,
Hmm.
um, which is good for brain cells.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah. Oh, that
but
is.
like in today, we need to be teaching systems of MMA that are not disparate martial arts, not jujitsu over here and Muay Thai over here, and then wrestling here. Like you need to train some jujitsu, but it needs to be
Hmm.
jujitsu for MMA.
Yep.
And if you want to train jujitsu for jujitsu's sake, that's great. Or if you want to come from any of those, but once you start training to fight, time is your most valuable resource.
Yep.
So we have to teach a very streamlined version, and there needs to be overlap. So an example of the overlap that I'm talking about, mechanical overlap. So when I was taught to box, I was taught this is a jab, this is a cross, this is a hook, this is an uppercut, this is the other uppercut. Well, don't worry about your rear hook. You never throw that anyway, and you're going to be fighting bare knuckles, so we're not going to teach you the overhand. But I was taught 6 separate punches. And I trained for 4 years before I was like, wait a second. Every time I throw something on my left side, my hips do this. And every time I throw something on my right side, my hips do that. And so then now I don't teach 8 different punches. I teach your lead side and your rear side and variations of them. So 75% of the mechanics for your hook are identical to your jab. Or your cross, anything on your rear side from here to the ground does the exact same thing. And then there's different mechanics and there's different punching, but I use the striking techniques that utilize kinetic linking and rotational inertia predominantly because they have more of that mechanical overlap, that then we can have variations rather than separate different techniques. And then that saves time in the training, because now I'm not training 3 different punches. When I train this one punch, I'm also training the mechanics for these other punches, right? So, and then you find a way to have your punches and your kicks look similar, so that, wait, is he throwing his rear hand or is he throwing his rear leg? And then you get more of that mechanical overlap. And so that's just one example of overlap. But we need to have as much overlap as we can between our grappling and our clinch work and our striking and the ranges that all overlap and flow together, because we just don't have time.
Well, it's right. What it sounds a lot like is this is a outcome-based principle approach to fighting based upon biomechanics and the universal principles of the human form, because we figured out how to fucking fight a long time ago, but we got so hung up on the minutia of technique-driven attribute gathering because we're loyal to a particular cultural sets, lineage, etc. Because this is
my guru can beat up your guru.
Exactly. This is predominant problem within like the martial arts community. Yep. And the fact is, a lot of them don't realize that fighting is really, really simple. It's not easy, but it's really simple.
Yep.
Because the human form hasn't really changed. It's principle based. It's outcome driven. And the techniques, I mean, they're fun and all, but the fact is, you're going for chasing the outcomes.
Yes.
The techniques, you can get lost on it.
Yeah. And really, each fighter, it's like you've got your individual strengths and weaknesses. You need to figure out what your game is, and you need to figure out how to implement your game on whoever comes in, right? And the approach of upgrading the systems of MMA and the style of teaching of that thought process came out of my injury when I started studying biomechanics. And one of my fitness mentors, his name is Tom Purvis. And there is so much fraud in the fitness industry and so much bullshit and so much noise. He was the one that said, all right, guys, 1 + 1 = 2. And if it doesn't, fuck off. We're not having this conversation. But if we can bring it back to mathematics, formulas, mechanics, biomechanics, exercise mechanics. Now we can compare apples and apples and actually start having some meaningful conversations, and not my guru is better than your guru type conversations. Yoga
Yep.
is better than Pilates conversations. No, right? So yeah, that systems based approach, that bias, I have a very strong bias towards mechanics and science.
And this is the part where, because science prove, because you have to have a body of work, people who fight actually fight. You find the same commonalities of principles, biomechanics, and application, regardless of where they came from.
Everybody has the same base DNA. Goes
Yep.
back to the same principles, same baseline stuff in there now.
Well,
But there's some people who want to change it. Yeah.
and once you start watching, they don't look that different.
Mhm.
Competitive savate doesn't look all that different from American kickboxing.
Mhm.
Sanda doesn't look all that different from MMA. Like, I'm watching and I cannot tell what style kung fu this guy is. It looks like fucking kickboxing to me, because they're punching and kicking with two arms and two legs and trying not to get hit. Huh. So it all just kind of gets real similar real fast, right?
And we're like the problem we run into is because one's coming from like a classical lineage that's culturally tied, and they're proud of that history, and they want to have that identity piece attached to it. This is where there's a lot of that resistance to, like, well, it's just fighting. Well, yeah, it is just fighting, but you're getting the individuals getting so hung up on the personal preferences of their chosen cultural methodology
Yeah.
that they misunderstand the nuances of the
art
practicality.
part of it. Yeah.
Well, there's a lot of things to uphold with integrity of the original system. So nobody wants to add or use their brain to think about what's being shown and what's being formed, because they want to uphold it. Like you said, the cultural integrity of my guru is better than your guru. My grandmaster taught me this. Yeah.
It's kind of crazy. Like, if I think about all the different fighters that I've coached and taught, and I have a system, but if you take Viking and put them next to Bulletproof Troop and put them next to Butcher and put them next to Solo, those are four guys that I've done a lot of work with, and four guys that fucking kick ass. They do not look at all similar. Their styles are completely different because their personalities are completely different. Their body types are different. Fucking Troop is 6'5", 250 pounds, right?
Their preferences and injury set. Yep.
Yeah. So
adaptation.
their training scars and their injuries. Yeah, right. So that's just a decade of my experience. Now, when I die and this guy goes off and shares some of what he's, there's no way of replicating my system or pretending that, it's like, no, that's not how it's supposed to be.
It's got to evolve.
Yeah, it has to evolve. And part of coaching is teaching the fighter to become the coach.
And learning how to coach.
Right? And how to coach and how to think and how to have their own styles. And we don't know what we don't know. We don't know what we hear about the ecological approach to training and constraints-led training and sciencey and it's like, okay, I get some of that, but some of the words that you're using are completely alien to me. And you're okay. Wait, I do that. I don't know what that is, but I do that and I do that. But we don't know 5 years from now, 10 years from now, what science is going to show us, right? That
Mhm.
there's a better way to teach, there's a better way to learn, right? Um, yeah. So you
So
can't,
the
it's like, yeah, you can, for posterity and for historical reasons, yes, appreciate it, but you can't say this is what was meant. This is the gospel. This is like, bro,
this
come
is the
on.
absolutes. Yeah. Well, like I mean, preferences and adaptation from personal like capabilities and limitations, either by injury or just like composition, has a big part to play. And the other one too, I this is just completely rabbit hole of me theorizing stuff about martial arts because nerd. I'm completely of this mind that people who are constantly chasing after the thing that the grandmaster did way back when, they're constantly trying to chase after that perfect setup of the technique, the
Right.
situation, and the perfect opponent, and then the execution. Like my GM did a beautiful ridge hand to this, and I knocked the guy out, and now it's the core structure of our martial arts system.
Yeah.
So 30 to 60 years later, everybody's still chasing after that ridge hand as the God's gospel of this is the way, when they don't have the critical mind to look at maybe the grandmaster preferred to do the ridge hand because he couldn't do a hook. Maybe the terrain was specific that he had to do it because he could mess up his foot. Maybe he was just properly in range with that opponent and the opponent stepped in. I mean, there's so much
Yeah.
in there in that situation that people don't read into, but because they reduce everything down to like a streamlined generalization. They say, "Oh yeah, the ridge hand works. This is the
Yeah.
technique." It's like
Yeah.
there's so much more going on here, but
Yeah.
people don't think about it.
And I think it's super important as a coach, like for me to be transparent about my own personal biases.
Mhm.
Like the sport that I did has almost nothing to do with what's going on today,
Mhm.
right? Like
Yep.
no biting, no eye gouging, no punching the throat, no groin shots,
Unless you're in Texas.
right? Yeah, well, bro. So Eric Paulson, one of his fights, he pulls out his cup, it's broken in half.
Yep.
It's like, damn.
Damn.
I never had that particular rule set. Like we weren't allowed. We nobody was kneeing each other in the nuts. But the point I'm making is that what I did has almost nothing. You know, the structure, the weight classes, the 5 rounds or the 5 minute rounds, and the like. Okay, so it's really important for me to say this is what I did. This is what worked for me. This is what I like.
Mhm.
Now let's figure out what works for you and make you the best that you can be, which is different than this is the way to do it. You know what I mean? Like,
A big
Yeah.
thing that I ran into training my fighters is I'm 5'6", fought heavier than I really should have because I didn't like cutting weight, and I have this emotional need to wade in, eat punches because I was too tough and dumb to like cut weight and move and whatever. So I would turtle up and work my way in, and once I got on the inside, you're mine. But that's a lot of head trauma working in. That's bad
hmm
training methodologies and bad training scars. So the things that I had to work with my fighters is that like don't fucking do that because that's a great way to die. And also, you guys are all taller than I am. That majority of my fighters were definitely over 5'6". So like
yeah,
getting them to stand tall, extend, and utilize that reach because you guys are tall. Be tall. Don't fight
man.
like me.
I've got this one fighter that we're working with now. His name's Cameron.
Hmm.
He fights at 170 pounds,
Hmm.
super lean, but I think he's fucking tall. He's like six. He's either 6'3" or 6'4".
Yeah.
Uh, and for a welterweight, you know, that's tall, but he's 90% legs.
Yeah. Yeah.
And, you know, so not only do we need to teach him how to be tall,
Hmm.
we actually need, it's like, now we also need to kind of teach you how to stand because your legs are different than my legs, and your torso is way different than my torso. So if I show you my fight stance, and I'm not honest about like this is what works for me, it's not going to work for you. Then we'll have disastrous results. But
And that's where you go with an approach, as you know, and as you've been saying, is go for principles, not preferences. Because
yes,
techniques I fall in the house of preferences, because the principles being is you're going for the outcome. The
right,
individual has preferences. Like mine is I'm short, fat, and tough and dumb. My guys are over 6 foot. They shouldn't be that way. So don't
right,
fight like the way I do. Don't fight
right,
like the way that I want to fight, because
yeah,
it's not a great way to live.
yeah, yeah, exactly, yeah. And the thing is, you have to be able to. Okay, this is my preference. Here are some options,
Hmm.
right? And figure it out and get good. And then that brings up another problem that we will encounter with the buffet style of
Hmm.
MMA. You train this martial art, that martial art, and then you mix them, right?
It
And
doesn't work that way.
now you'll get guys that's like, okay, jab's coming in. How do I deal with the jab? Well, I know 15 different ways to defend the jab.
Hmm.
And then I have to figure out which one I'm going to use. And then, oh, I got hit, right? Where if you have 3, you're good. You
Yep.
need one to be that's your shit. You are so good at that defense. You are world class. You're elite. And then you need the other one that you're also really good at, and it's in there so that you're not predictable. And then you put the third one in there to make you completely unpredictable.
Hmm.
But much more than that, then you start running into problems with decision making, and there's too many options, there's too many choices, and it slows down, and then your reaction, and then it becomes problems.
It's that whole paradox of complexity
Yes,
has the opportunity for failure because time equals distance. And just the same for time equals distance, if it takes you all that time to make a decision, it still
yes,
applies.
yes, yes, yep,
Yeah, the fight game is fascinating. And this is where I, coming from the Filipino martial arts background, I love the FMA community. But there is things that I find with the FMA community, and not just there, but specific as I'm more involved with it now than I am with anything else, is that there's so much that they could learn from actually fighting, not just stick fighting, but actually getting in the cage, getting in the ring, getting on the mat, so they could figure out there is a difference between their preferences, stylistic lineage choices, and the art features and actual fighting, and finding the balance and accepting that there's a difference between the things that I like and the things that are universally sound, and that it's not a comparison of which is better. Having that honest conversation that I might like FMA because there's stuff in there that's culturally relevant, but there's a lot of stuff in there that doesn't directly apply for good practices for combat sports.
right.
But to have that truth and honesty, you got to do the combat sports to see that I might like this, but it probably isn't going to work. But I still like it. And I would really encourage not just the FMA community, but just people who in martial arts in general, like find the truth by fighting and figuring it out and continue on with the things that you love. Because here's the other part about that. The fighting lifestyle, the fighter's window of actually competing is very, very small. And there's a high risk of it being taken away from you, as point in case with your eye, me with
Yep,
my ankle.
yep.
And so, I mean,
Bro, do you
it's
know
just a
how
small
many
window.
fucking unbelievable, amazing fighters we've
Get it taken away
never
from
heard
them?
of? We've
Yep.
never heard of. Like, like you think Deontay Wilder hits hard?
Hmm.
There's this motherfucker named Shotgun in Trenton, New Jersey, that you've never heard of because he smokes crack. But I'm just saying, I'm sorry, Shotgun, if you're watching this, but bro, like, it's unbelievable how gifted some people are. To Royce Ramos, right over here with 2
Yep.
blown out knees. Like, fuck.
But even though you can't do it anymore, you can still teach. You can still share.
Yeah.
You can still progress.
Unless you're smoking crack, then
Exactly.
your options are very limited.
That's a nah, you can still do it.
Let me ask you guys an FMA question, if I may, because I have you. So, footwork. If you are orthodox, what I would call orthodox, right? Standing left side forward, right side back, and I want to step forward and to the right on a 45. Okay, so I'm not going straight forward, and I'm going forward to the right on a 45. And I step my rear foot first, and as my rear foot is landing, my left fist is striking. Do you guys have a name for that?
I don't have a name for it, but for boxing, I call it a switch step or a switch cut because you're literally switching your stances and striking with it. But as for like a specific Tagalog Cebuano Visayan word, I got nothing.
Okay. No, I heard nothing either. It's dropping your weight, right? Like with your lead foot.
Well, see, it's really easy to throw a jab going on the 45.
Yeah.
Lead side to your left, right? That's easy. Going to the right 45, now you either have to cross your feet, which I don't think you should do, or you have to have opposite foot, opposite hand. So you're.
Well, maybe Race can answer that question. He's watching, so.
Yeah. So I actually
I call it a switch
footwork.
Step.
Yeah, so. I stole the footwork from a book that Guru Dan wrote. I was like, okay. And I call it a D step, which has nothing to do with the letter D. It's the code that my fighters, so a Dino, D-I-N-O, is a Democrat in name only. They move to the right while they punch left. So they become more conservative while they smear the progressive. So I was like, that's our key word. That's our code word. Nobody's going to know what a Dino is. But then the problem is, if you're southpaw, then do you call it a rhino going the other direction? No, it's still. So that's why we call it a D step. But it's something that I sold from FMA, but I don't know what it's called.
You're going to get an argument of spelling from the entire universe of FMA practitioners because we can't agree upon.
I've done my job, right?
We can't agree upon spelling, so I mean, but yeah, Royce has got it pretty straightforward. A 45 step, 45 degree.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, this has been fantastic, man. I mean, I've learned. I know I'm sitting here trying to add my fucking two pennies worth in there for whatever it's worth. But I mean, you've taught me a lot about the whole fight game and about where I didn't even know any of that stuff. So, hats off to you. Thank you. That was great. I guess, like I said, I know Kurt probably heard most of this already, so it's something new to him. But for me, so I'm not a combat sports guy. Like I learned a lot of stuff in there, so that was very very cool to learn a lot of that stuff that you put out on there. I think we're gonna do if you're up for it in the near future, do a part 2. We're gonna talk about more strength conditioning, some other stuff to piss some FMA people off. So
when I start talking about S&C, I piss everybody off.
That's okay. That's
everybody.
You're here to fucking
static stretching.
Yeah, see.
If you're up to it, I mean, definitely part 2. We could go more into more of the MMA stuff like that, because I find it fascinating. Like I said, Kurt's kind of sitting there like, he's heard this before because he's the coach. But for me, it's all new to me. So I'm glad that you came on here and explained a lot of stuff.
I think there's going to be a lot of parallels between FMA and combat sports, where there's going to be a lot of the same like dogmatic ideology, and gurus. It's gonna. I think there's a lot of commonalities.
Holding gloves. It's the only way.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I think I'm gonna piss off a lot of people. So
well, to be fair, I've been on the FMA game for a while, so you might piss off Kurt there. I've the only time I do FMA is when students want to come here and learn. Other than that, I'll be honest with you, I haven't really did a whole lot of it in quite a while. Like my own personal training, I've kind of left that whole kind of thing. But I've stepped on other things. But just you want to go ahead and show people where they can reach you at for any potential fighters out there that might be watching, or
their hand. The easiest way, if you're watching this, right down here, my name is Raging.
You go put it on there.
Just put the word "the" in front of it, and that's my tag on Instagram. So the Raging on Instagram is probably the easiest way to find me. I do have a YouTube, which they're actually showing right here. If you type in my name, Raging, and look up the channel, you can find me there. I'm also on Facebook. And if you're watching this, there's a forum on Facebook called the Aperture Fight Focus Forum. I'm a moderator there, and I will probably decline your invitation. No, I'm kidding.
Only way to be sure. Keep the fucking hooligans out, right? We probably should start doing that too, right? Screen the fucking riffraff out. Yeah. No, actually, this podcast page has been great. We've had great people on there. Nobody's caused any trouble. Everybody's been fantastic on here. Everybody's been great. I mean, we do this as a hobby. Like we don't get, like I told you earlier, we don't get money for this. This is shit that we do just because, like, we get bored sometimes and we just want to like shoot the shit with cool people, and like that's what we do it. We do as many episodes as we feel like we need to do. We don't have a quota. So I love it. I love it.
It's an excuse to have cool conversations with interesting people. So.
Yeah, there's no agenda behind any of this shit. Like no one's trying to fucking get T-shirts with our fucking faces on them and everything. You know what I mean? We're just trying to.
You guys are doing another episode with Todd Fossey.
Yes, that was fantastic. That was man, he's very passionate, and that's one guy I like to. I mean, I'm a procrastinator. I train with him eventually, like in person. He has some great stuff, a good viewpoint on stuff, and we just kind of let him do his thing on here. We take the leash off. We're like, man, go ahead and go for it, man. Like, you want to fucking speak your mind? Go ahead, dude.
Remember, we were talking about the ecological approach and constraints led. I'm gonna fucking get on a podcast with Todd and make him fucking explain that shit to me, because I understand like 70% of it, but there's a good solid chunk of it where I'm just like, I don't fucking know what you're saying. But Todd, bro, he's got
a big brain.
He's got a
very big brain.
I like really watched his stuff before, but then now I've been really like just watching all of his videos. It's like, man, this guy. I mean, I'm not fucking dick riding or anything here, but this guy has like, he has a lot of answers for a lot of shit, and it's real, and he calls it like he sees it, and a lot of the shit he says in there is true. I mean, if you put your passion beside your biases and really think about what he's saying, it's like truth. A lot of it. I mean, I know it's his opinion, but if you just really think about it, a lot of it's good shit. It's truth. Yeah. And people don't like that. They hate it. They're like, oh man, I got on there again. Like, dude, like.
Did you guys see the movie The Big Short?
Yeah.
And the truth is like poetry, and people fucking hate poetry.
Oh shit. Yeah, we're definitely gonna have you on. Shit, maybe we should have you and Todd at the same time.
Hey, I'm down for that.
Let's see how the experiment works.
Yeah, I'm down for that. We all have different time zones, but if we can coordinate that,
dude, we need to make that happen. How's that sound?
That's great with me.
Make it happen. Like I said, time zones coordinate.
Yeah, we'll coordinate it. We'll get with we'll get with Todd and get you guys on there. And fuck, who knows where we're gonna go with that one. Yeah, see, people are. That's a good idea. Shit, we're gonna make you moderator of the page now. Can you handle 2 jobs?
Hey guys, I really appreciate this opportunity. I'm grateful.
Well, thank you. Appreciate you coming on. I mean, you're legendary, man. We're just like we're here to spread the gospel, right? We're here to give you the exposure.
Wow, thank you.
Not that
Thank
you need it, but I mean, like, just people to check you out and listen to the cool shit you got to talk about. And
I mean, you would be. I don't think you would be surprised, but you would be surprised how much resistance and shade I get for just the simplest little things,
well, people always same thing with Todd. He's like, I try to say, people are like, oh, you know what the fuck you're talking about. And like, dude, like, there's always people to fucking say something. So
Yeah.
people watching this later on, like, what the fuck are those guys having him on there for? Like, what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't care. It's like, we just do, like, we have what we have on, and if we don't fucking like it, don't watch it.
Yep.
Plain and simple. I'll also say it. Roy says, if you want an FMA guy too, I'm down. Laughing out loud. You forgot to put the little wink with the wink. Yeah, well, definitely. We haven't had Royce on yet.
We have with the PTK group that came on with for fundraising.
Yeah, I forgot. Well, we can
But
have
him individually? No, we haven't. So, but we will.
Yeah, we don't mind having repeat guests on. Maybe we do whatever. But yeah, we want to thank you again. Like I said, it's been fantastic, and we're definitely gonna have you on again. So
Awesome.
You're definitely be coming back. Make the Todd Fossey and your show. We're gonna make that happen. Maybe sometime in the new year, because we're having Todd on again this month. And then we'll maybe January, February, something. We'll line something up.
Perfect.
Definitely. But thank you for coming on. I appreciate it. It's been great. Thank you for taking the time to come on and just give us your knowledge and everything. It's very it's valuable. It was awesome. I loved it. Is it?
All right, Royce. You need to be more active in the past. All right. Awesome, guys. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Have a great night. We'll be in contact, man, for sure.
Sweet.
I'm going to try my hand and be a professional fighter. I fucking, yeah, that's not going to happen. But I can pretend, right, to get social media views and likes. Okay.
That's a whole nother topic, but
yeah. Well, we'll go into that when we get you and Todd on. He loves talking about that, so that's going to be a fucking hell of a show. I can't wait for that one.
It's for the gram.
It's going to be good.
I would love to talk to you.
Appreciate it.
All right,
thank you. I would love to talk to you more sometime about fight promotions and the evolution of fight promotions, because that's a fun topic.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't know. I'm really happy with the way things are progressing.
Yeah.
But again, look at where the fuck I came from.
I'm Alaska.
It's not illegal anymore.
Yeah.
Hey, we just want to let you know, anything you said on night cannot be used against you. Just a disclaimer. Go sign the paper. Go back to the paper. No incriminating evidence here. Thank you. Appreciate it.
All right, guys.
Take care. Have a good night.
Have a great night.
Yeah.
Wow, another good one, huh?
Yeah, could have gone a little longer, but it's all good.
I know I'm a prick, but yeah, you guys can, if you guys can go on as long as you want to. We can we'll have definitely a part 2, and we're definitely going to talk about some more stuff. Because I want to be involved, and I want to ask some more questions too, but fortunately, duty calls for me. But yeah, we're definitely going to do a part 2. So who do we got coming on next?
That's still kind of in the works, so we'll throw that out when we get finalized. I've been talking about some people, but like I said, we're trying to figure that out.
Okay. Yeah, we're gonna have December is gonna be some people we didn't get to in November. We've got some interesting topics coming up for some people you may not have heard of, some people you may have heard of. But yeah, we want to thank you guys for watching. Another fun one, and we'll release the next episode here soon.
Sweet. Well, everybody, I'm going to give us our outro, and I'll see everybody later.
All right. See y'all there. Thanks for watching, guys.